everybody, and welcome back to Variety Vibes Podcast. I'm your host, Trey, and today we're going to be breaking out a little bit of one of the subjects we want to do. We want to do a little bit of true crime on here for you guys and give you guys just a little bit better content. Today we're going to be talking about the 1992 Christmas Day murders here in Dayton, Ohio. This happened back in 1992. There was a series of murders committed by a four-member juvenile gang during the 3-day period around Christmas Day in 1992. This story actually pans out to be pretty crazy. Four murderers led by ringleader Marvelous Matthew Keene had killed a total of 6 people. And they killed a total of 6 people and injured another 2 with varying motives, including robbery and silencing potential witnesses. 2 of the people that ended up dying were friends of Keene. All 4 perpetrators aged between 16 and 20. They were arrested and charged with multiple counts of aggravated murder. The trial of the 4 ended with Keene sentenced to death for 5 murders, while the rest, Heather Nicole, Laura Jean Taylor, and DeMarcus Smith, were all sentenced to life in prison. Keene was ultimately executed by lethal injection on July 21, 2009. He was the 1000th person condemned in the U.S. to undergo lethal injection. So this all started out on December 24th, 1992. 3 of the co-conspirators, Keene, Taylor, and Matthews, teamed up together to rob a man who Taylor figured would pay them for sex. The trio targeted 34-year-old Joseph Wilkerson, who was an acquaintance of Taylor. And they met up with Wilkerson under the pretext of wanting to have an orgy with Wilkerson. After they had a drink, all 4 went into Wilkerson's bedroom, where they held Wilkerson at gunpoint and tied him to his bed with electrical cords. The girls ransacked the house for items to steal while Keene kept watch of their hostage. The trio found a .32 caliber Derringer pistol, which Keene used to shoot and kill Wilkerson by discharging the gun at his chest with blankets covering his body to muffle the noise. Taylor also shot Wilkerson in the head after he struggled. Next, we have the murder of Danita Gullett. After the murder of Wilkerson, the trio, now joined by a 4th member, Smith, went on the hunt for more victims, and they took the life of 18-year-old Danita Gullett on the same day they killed Wilkerson. Taylor and Keene and Smith, who were all armed with guns, went walking together, and they chanced upon Gullett, who was calling someone on a payphone. After this, Smith and Keene drew their guns and forced Gullett at gunpoint to take her shoes off. After taking the shoes, Smith and Keene shot Gullett to death before they made off with her shoes and jacket. When they returned to the apartment, Taylor was wearing Gullett's jacket and Smith was carrying Gullett's shoes. At the time of her death, Gullett was a high school senior and a part-time fast food restaurant employee who had a 2-year-old daughter. So these guys they weren't really worried about anybody else. They were worried about what they had to do. And I don't know what would be going through somebody's head to just rob somebody and shoot them and kill them in a phone booth. Not with any pretense or anything. Just out trying to get money, I guess. I have no idea. But next we are going to go on to the shooting of Jeffrey Wright. After killing Gullett, the group went back to Wilkerson's house to spend the night, but on the same night the group decided to target a 3rd victim. The 3rd victim was Jeff, who was the ex-boyfriend of Matthews. After he confronted Wright at their apartment and argued with Wright, Smith used a gun to shoot Wright in the leg 4 times, but Wright was able to escape to a neighbor's house and he survived the shooting. So this guy got shot in the leg 4 times and he was able to run to a neighbor's house. I could only be scared for his life. He really must have been. You get shot once, I doubt you're moving, let alone 4 times in your legs, and you're going to get up and you're going to run to the neighbor's house. This guy literally had to fight for his life. So next we have the murder of Richmond Maddox. On December 25th, Christmas Day, a day after the murder of Wilkerson, Gullett, and the non-fatal shooting of Wright, Keene returned to the house of Wilkerson to steal his 2nd car and other valuables. After the theft, the youngest member of the gang, Taylor, coaxed her 19-year-old former boyfriend Richmond Maddox from his parents' home, and they both drove Maddox's car with Keene, Smith, and Matthews trailing behind. After Maddox spotted the car, he became suspicious and sped his car up. While Maddox was driving, Taylor aimed her Derringer pistol at the temple of Maddox and fired a single shot, killing Maddox. Taylor was able to escape the car before it crashed on Benton Avenue and rejoined her accomplices. So, I don't know what she had against her ex-boyfriend, but, I mean, she put a gun to this dude's temple while he was driving. Mind you, she's a passenger, so puts a gun to this man's temple, shoots him in the head while he's driving, and she's still in the car. So clearly they're kids, but clearly these people ain't thinking very bright. I mean, she was able to escape the car, but you just shot your ex-boyfriend in the head. I don't know the motive behind it, but, I mean, that doesn't tell you anything. These kids are crazy. So next we have the murder of Sarah Abraham and the shooting of Jones Pittus. On the early morning of December 26, 1992, a day after Maddox's murder, the gang went to rob a grocery store and shot 3 people, which resulted in the death of 38-year-old Sarah Abraham and a wounding one. On that day itself, after the gang robbed a woman named Kathy Henderson and stole her car, they went to a grocery store with intent to commit an armed robbery. Abraham, whose family owned the store, was working behind the cash register when Taylor entered the store to check the interior of the place itself. Abraham and a shop helper named Edward Thomas were the only 2 staff members present at this time. After Taylor reported to her accomplices about the number of people inside the store, Keene and Smith went into the store with guns and threatened Abraham at gunpoint, ordering her to open the cash register and hand over the money. After Abraham complied and gave Keene $40, Keene shot Abraham on the head, and simultaneously Smith also shot Thompson and another man named Jones Pittus, who was a customer at the store. He sustained a gunshot wound to his abdomen, but Thomas was not hurt due to the bullet missing him. The pair then departed from the store, leaving the 3 victims behind. In their aftermath of this shooting, Abraham, who was mortally wounded, was rushed to the hospital for treatment, but she died 4 days later. The other man survived his injuries. Abraham left behind 3 children, the oldest of whom aged 11 at the time of her murder. So they're not even, they're not thinking about, the people and the kids that they're taking these people's parents. These kids are going to have to grow up the rest of their life without a parent. And, she's just at work trying to make money to provide for her family. And you got people that just don't care and want to come in and cause a ruckus and come in and rob you and ultimately end up shooting and killing one person and injuring a couple more people. So these people just, I don't know what's up with this world today, but people just don't care. And it's sad to say, thankfully these guys were charged and got what they deserved, but there's countless stories you hear out here of people that go on sprees like this and they never catch them. So we have a few more things that are going on that could, they contribute to this story. We have the murders of Marvin Washington and Wendy Cottrell. After the grocery store robbery, the gang became increasingly fearful that they might get exposed to the police if any of their friends snitched on them. Based on sources, at least 2 of the gang's friends, 16-year-old Wendy and 18-year-old Marvin Washington, had known to a certain extent about the gang's crime spree throughout the last 3 days. According to the testimony of Matthews in her trial, she said that she and Taylor discussed about jumping Cottrell after believing that she might tell on the group. As for Smith, he thought of getting rid of Washington as well for having known about his involvement in the shooting of Jeffrey Wright. The group of the 4 then planned to lure both Cottrell and Washington to another place. After picking up Washington and the other individual, the gang drove to a gravel pit in Dayton and forced the pair out of the car. While being threatened at gunpoint, they both protested that they had not gone to the police to snitch on them. However, Keene shot and murdered Cottrell while Washington was shot to death by Smith. The bodies of this pair were not found until 5 days later. A friend of Cottrell told Dayton Daily News that she was not 3 months pregnant at the time she was killed. So you got people that are killing parents, robbing stores, shooting ex-boyfriends in the head, and now you're going to go kill a 3-month pregnant individual because she's going to supposedly snitch on you for the murders you've been committing over the last couple days. Like, it's insane to me, like, how this story breaks down, and I'm surprised I never heard of it. I live here in Dayton, and I didn't learn about this story until, about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So, I'm not sure exactly how nobody ever talked about this, but it's insane how, these are kids, and they're going around just murdering people. It's insane to me. But unlike Keene, Heather Nicole Matthews and the other adult perpetrator were granted a plea bargain after some discussion between the defense and the prosecution. The prosecution agreed to take the death penalty off the table as a condition of the plea deal. Matthews was therefore sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms for 2 counts of aggravated murder, and her jail term amounted to 194 years. It was decreed that Matthews would not be eligible for parole for a minimum of a period of 53 years. Both Laura and DeMarcus Smith, who were ineligible for death sentence, were tried January and February in 1994, respectively, for the murders, and they were also sentenced to life imprisonment, similarly to Smith and Taylor, who were both ineligible for parole for at least more than 100 years. So these two ended up getting life in prison. Doesn't really help their situation, it doesn't. I'm not sure if they were remorseful for what they've done or not, but you can't just go around shooting your ex-boyfriend in the head, robbing people and killing them, and expect to just get a smack on the wrist. Like, I just don't know what was going through these folks' head. In this trial, Matthews laminated the fact that she never had a chance to marry Smith, whom she loved, and was reportedly glad to see at the legal process coming to close. Although she had described life in prison as no life at all, she found nothing in her will to live, and she wished to kill herself. So, that shows you how far that went. And also, so in the years after the killings, families and friends of the victims continued to be plagued with emotion, and they had to try to figure out a way to live their life without their loved ones over senseless murders and senseless killings for no reason, just for personal gain. They were just robbing people and killing them when they got done. Bad enough you're gonna rob somebody, but you gotta put bullets in them and kill them afterwards. Like, I don't see how they thought this was gonna go. I really don't. But so yeah, 3 of them ended up getting life in prison, and the leader, Marvelous Keene, he ended up getting the death sentence, and he was killed by lethal injection July 21st, 2009. So, was it 11 years later? Or no, so 2009 to 1992, many years later. It took them a long time to, I guess, gather evidence or whatever and, get the lethal injection. But I'm not sure how you punish one person to this extent, but let the other 3 just get life in prison. In my personal opinion, they all should have been, put down with lethal injection. You don't just go around killing people. I don't understand it. But, that's the world we live in, And that's why I try so hard to, just talk to people, get out there and speak with people, because, somebody could be having a terrible day, or, just right at that point to where they're ready to snap, and, you sit down and have this conversation with somebody, hey, I know you're going through a rough patch right now, and, things could be a lot better for you, but, just having that conversation could have saved multiple lives, and mind you, these are all juveniles, how how are their parents? Like, how do they not know what's going on? Like, it just goes to show you can't just let up and, let your kids do whatever they want, because kids don't have the brain capacity to, think things through and, not do stuff like this. And it's no excuse at all, but I feel like if the parents had been more involved, then, things would have been different. But let us know how you guys like these true crime, series we're going to try to put out. We're also going to try to do some, paranormal activity stuff. There's a lot of haunted stuff around here in Ohio. We're just trying to explore different avenues and, give you guys the content you guys want to hear. And that all comes full circle, if you guys can leave a comment and, say whether or not you like this, or give us recommendations on the next topic we should talk about. It helps us all out. But, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Go ahead and drop us a like, drop us a subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And we're going to go and we're going to get them more in depth and do more research, and we're going to bring more of these, true crime stories, to attention. Try to get into some cold case files and, bring back light to these situations, that have gone, cold and put in the dark and just boxed up in a corner somewhere. Whatever we can do to, help anybody, that's really the whole thing we're trying to do. So, I'm your host, Trey. This is Variety Vibes Podcast. Thank you.